job.
Yeah. It's all a big coincidence. And then you look over at the southern border here, and we've had tens of thousands pouring across. And the Obama administration swooping them up and distributing these, I'll call them what they are, illegal immigrants all across the country and not allowing anyone to know where they are.
But we're better off now than we were 6 years ago.
He gave a speech where he was trying to pivot, to get our attention back on domestic issues and trying to tell us how much better off we are, that he's virtually saved our economy. Our border is more secure now than it has ever been, even though tens of thousands of undocumented, no way of knowing where these people come from, have been pouring through our border.
And they haven't stopped. I mean, just because it's not in the news, because it's passed out of the 24-hour news cycle.
They're coming over, hacking and sneezing and coughing. We've got some kind of crazy respiratory virus that's also sweeping through this country that's already killed, I think they said, 4 kids. One of them was the last one was a 10-year-old girl. It's paralyzing some of these kids, like literally paralyzing their muscles. There's no way, according to the Obama administration, there's not the remotest possibility that there could be a link between this virus, this respiratory virus that we're dealing with here, and these illegal immigrants and their kids. There's no way that that's possible, and to suggest that, you're a racist.
Don't you have an audio of?
I do. I've got a clip.
You're putting words in the man's mouth.
I've got a clip of El Jefe from his 60 Minutes interview. Used to be a time in this country where if you've seen the 60 Minutes band pull up outside your business or at your home,
it was bad.
You was going to start sweating because they were going to be asking you some tough questions. And if you were a president and you had to sit down with 60 Minutes, you better, get your game face on and be ready to face some of them tough questions, and you better have some good answers. This dude can say whatever he wants, and
they don't challenge him.
The media's like, okay, thank you so much, Mr. President, for being so open and honest with us. Listen at this, man.
You've got midterm elections coming up. Are you going to get shellacked? Are you optimistic? What are the issues, and what are you going to tell the American people?
Here's what I'm going to tell the American people. When I came into office, our economy was in crisis. We had unemployment up at 10%. It's now down to 6.1. We've had the longest run of uninterrupted private sector job growth in our history. We have seen deficits cut by more than half. Corporate balance sheets are probably the best they've been in the last several decades. We are producing more energy than we have before, more clean energy than we ever have before. I can put my record against any leader around the world in terms of digging ourselves out of a terrible, almost unprecedented financial crisis. Ronald Reagan used to ask the question, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? In this case, are you better off than you were in 6? And the answer is, the country is definitely better off than we were when I came into office. But
do you think people feel it?
They don't feel it. And the reason they don't feel it is because incomes and wages are not going up. There's solutions to that. If we raise the minimum wage, if we make sure women are getting paid the same as men for doing the same work, if we are rebuilding our infrastructure, if we're doing more to invest in job training so people are able to get the jobs that are out there right now, because manufacturing's coming back to this country. Not just the auto industry that we saved, but you're starting to see reinvestment here in the United States. Businesses around the world are saying for the first time in a long time, the place to invest isn't China, it's the United States.
Everything that man just said was a lie. A lie. You know, he says he would stack his record up against any leader in the... Of course, if your people are writing these lies, and that's all that the media is going to talk about...
Yeah,
of course it's going to... When you write the history books, you can make yourself look as good as you want. 6.1% unemployment. Are you crazy?
Yeah, see, all these people like me who are not working right now, it's because we just don't want to work, man. We don't like working. We want to sit at home.
You know, they got these numbers where they're not taking into account the amount of people that have went on disability,
right,
for things like depression. Now, there's been millions of people that have went on disability due to depression because they could not find work. So essentially, those people are victims of this president's policy.
Yes, but they don't count.
They don't count. They do not count.
People who have absolutely given up and just plain stopped looking for work because there's no point, because there is none.
And went into the system.
You know, and some of them are in the system, some of them are not.
Right. But they don't count. Those numbers are not in the books.
Yeah, see, they don't count. What it is there's 6.1% of people who are ridiculous optimists whose names are still carried on the unemployment rolls. They're also not counting the people whose period of unemployment compensation has expired and they've just been booted off.
Yep, they're out of the workforce.
You know, they're not drawing unemployment benefits anymore, and they're not working either.
Over 90 million people.
The most number
working.
Of unemployed in the United States ever. But see, those numbers are out of the equation.
And, you know, the automobile industry that we saved, yeah, again, we bring, you know, I hate to keep throwing this out, but, you know, when you add in Pontiac and Saturn that no longer exist.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Hard to say you saved them there, buddy.
They saved, those Saturn employees. Some of them who have fallen off the unemployment rolls because there's no automobile manufacturing jobs for them. I wonder if they feel safe.
And manufacturing's coming back. Where? Other than the state of Texas, where are these manufacturing jobs? All
the like ammunition manufacturers and high capacity magazine manufacturers that left places like Colorado and the eastern seaboard and moved to Texas and Mississippi and, you know, Alabama and wherever. That's manufacturing's
the solution to all of this too.
That's coming back.
The solution to all of this too. The reason we're not feeling any of this non-existent growth and economic boom that he's suggesting that we're experiencing, it's just because the minimum wage hadn't been raised. Why, if we would just raise the minimum wage up to, you know, $12 an hour, well, God, that would make everything all right. If women would be making the same thing as their male counterparts, except, of course, in the White House and the Obama administration where that don't count.
Or the New York Times. Or you know,
or any of the other progressive
media outlets.
Progressive-run organizations, plants, whatever.
Yeah.
They don't count. But hey, if those two things would happen, or if people could just get training for the jobs that are out there. What a crock. There are so many people looking for work right now. I guarantee you there are an adequate number of qualified people to do any number of these jobs if they were out there. But they're not.
And also, you forgot, man. You forgot. If we would just invest in infrastructure.
In other words,
in shovel-ready jobs.
If we would all work for the government.
Yeah.
Everything would be okay. If everybody that has been, ejected from the private sector jobs would go to work for the government, we could be dug out of this mess. The problem is the government don't have the money to put into the infrastructure.
Now, you're just being picky.
Because we're already operating in a deficit.
I think you're a racist. Complaining about the deficit is racist.
That's got to be what it is. And in that same interview, when they bring up the threat that we've got from ISIS in the Middle East, he had the nerve to say, well, more or less, our intelligence people, they underestimated the threat, even though this president has not attended 64% of his daily intel briefings.
Now,
he's only attended...
And of the 64% that he didn't attend, they leave the briefings. They put the pages together, staple them, put them in a folder for him. How many of those you think he's even read?
I don't think, he might have opened them and looked at all of them, but I don't think he would understand what he was reading, even if he did read them, because he's never, ever had to deal with any of these kinds of issues before. He is completely inexperienced when it comes to being a chief executive of anything. He's never once been in charge of anything that didn't have to do with community organizing. This is what happens.
Are you trying to say we got a lousy president? I mean,
I'm trying to say, I tell you what, I'm not going to try to say it. I'm going to come right out and say, we have the worst president and the worst presidential administration in our nation's entire history. I would take Jimmy Carter over this Yutz. Listen to this Josh Earnest, his mouthpiece.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play this clip because John and Carl over there at ABC was kind of curious about this whole, how come you blaming the intel people for ISIS when it's been you that's been getting all these briefings? I want you to listen to how Ernest keeps repeating himself. I mean, he's got these words wrote out in front of him.
He's got his talking points, and he's going to get those talking points out. You know who he sounds like? If you cut her hair off, changed a few, gave a little plastic surgery, he would sound just like Debbie Wasserman Schultz in that he's going to get them talking points out.
Oh, yeah. And he's going to repeat them enough that
they become reality.
Yeah.
Magically.
Yeah. Listen to this.
I think the way that I would describe it is that everybody did. That everybody was surprised to see the rapid advance that ISIL was able to make across from Syria across the Iraqi border.
Everybody except the intel and military communities.
Such large swaths of territory in Iraq did come as a surprise. And that's something that the President has said many times, and it's something that even senior members of the intelligence community have acknowledged as well. A lot of that was predicated on the underestimation of the will of the Iraqi security